The dashboard lights flickered once before the engine gave out with a final gasp. Alyssa coasted the car to the side of the road, heart sinking as the silence settled in around her. No music, no hum of the engine, just the soft rustling of wind through the trees and her own shallow breathing. She reached for her phone and checked the signal. 2 bars. Good enough. Her first instinct was to call Derek. He picked up after the 4th ring. Yeah? My car just died, she said, trying not to sound annoyed. I'm about 10 minutes from the highway exit. Can you come? A pause. I'm in the middle of something. Can't you call roadside? It's late and I don't feel comfortable waiting out here alone, she replied, her voice tightening. I'm working, Alyssa, he said flatly. Figure something out. The line went dead. She stared at her phone, blinking back a sudden sting behind her eyes. That tone, that coldness, wasn't new. It had become their rhythm. Conversations that used to stretch into the night had been reduced to flat exchanges and silent dinners. Without thinking too hard, she opened her contacts and scrolled to Dad. He answered on the first ring. Sweetheart? Everything okay? My car broke down. I'm kind of stuck. Oh no. Where exactly are you? She gave him the location. He sighed. I wish I could get there, but I'm out of town for a conference. But listen, I'll call Rick. Remember him? My buddy from the garage? He's close to your area and still runs his shop. He'd come get you. Alyssa hesitated. Rick, her dad's longtime friend, the mechanic who used to stop by when she was a teenager. He had always seemed quiet, kind, but it had been years. Okay, she said finally. Just sit tight. I'll tell him to hurry. 15. Minutes later, a pair of headlights cut through the darkness. A black pickup truck rolled to a stop in front of her car. The door opened and out stepped Rick. He hadn't changed much. Salt and pepper hair, tall, broad-shouldered, with that same calm aura she remembered. His work jacket bore his name stitched neatly on the chest. Hey there, he said, offering a small smile. You've had a bit of bad luck tonight. You could say that, she replied, hugging her coat tighter around her. Rick moved with practiced ease, checking under the hood, asking a few questions. His presence was steadying, not rushed or distracted like Derek always seemed. Within moments, he confirmed it was likely a dead alternator. Want me to tow it to the shop? He asked. I'll get it fixed up for you tomorrow. She nodded. Thanks, Rick. Really. No problem. Hop in. I'll drop you home. The truck was warm, faintly smelling of pine and old leather. They drove in silence for a few minutes before he glanced over. You all right? Alyssa gave a tight smile. Just one of those days, you know? Rick nodded. Heard you got married a few years back. 3 years, she said. Feels longer. He didn't pry, just gave a soft grunt and kept his eyes on the road. Something about the way he didn't press, the way he allowed space without judgment, made her feel strangely safe. When they reached her driveway, Rick shifted into park but didn't kill the engine. She was about to unbuckle when he spoke again, gently, but with an edge of certainty. You deserve more than indifference, Alyssa. She froze. He continued, voice even. I've seen women look the way you look tonight. Tired, unseen, just... If you ever need to talk or not talk, my door's open. She turned to look at him, truly seeing him for the first time, not as her dad's friend, not as the mechanic, but as a man who had noticed what her own husband hadn't in months. Appreciate that, she said quietly. As she stepped out, Rick added one more thing. Not flirtatious, not pushy, just honest. You deserve to feel alive again. Alyssa stood on the porch long after his truck disappeared into the night. The words clung to her like dew on morning grass, unexpected, gentle, and impossible to ignore. She unlocked the front door. The living room was dark. Derek hadn't waited up. She slipped off her shoes, exhaled, and stared down the hallway. Maybe it was just a car breakdown, Or maybe it was the start of something she didn't even know she needed. Certainly. Below is Chapter 2 of your Infidelity short story, continuing from Chapter 1. This section deepens the emotional stakes, intensifies the bond between Alyssa and Rick, and introduces the central moral tension, the offer. Chapter 2, the offer. Word count, 760. The following morning arrived with a quiet stillness that felt heavier than the night before. Alyssa sat at the kitchen counter staring into a mug of coffee gone cold. Derek had already left. No note, no message, no acknowledgement of her car troubles or her late return. Just silence. She scrolled absently through her phone, pausing when she saw a new message. Rick. Got your car to the shop. Alternators. Shot. I'll fix it by tomorrow. No charge for the tow. You okay? Her fingers hovered over the screen. Alyssa. Thanks again for last night. You really saved me. She hit send before she could overthink it. To her surprise, he replied almost immediately. Rick. Anytime. You seemed heavy yesterday. Hope today's lighter. The message was simple, but it made her exhale. Someone had noticed. Someone cared enough to ask. By afternoon, their conversation had drifted beyond car repairs. Music, coffee preferences, weekend rituals. He had an old record player and liked 70s blues. She confessed she still baked when she couldn't sleep, even though Derek rarely touched anything she made. They talked again that evening, this time on the phone. Rick's voice was warm and slow, grounding. Alyssa found herself confessing things she hadn't said aloud in years. I feel like I'm fading, she said quietly. I go through the motions, wife, employee, daughter, but none of it feels like me anymore. Rick didn't interrupt. He let the silence stretch, patient and safe. You know, he said after a moment, sometimes people don't leave, but they still disappear. That sentence settled into her bones like an echo. She lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, listening to Derek's steady breathing beside her. The next day, Alyssa stopped by the garage under the pretense of checking on the car. She found Rick beneath the hood, sleeves rolled up, grease on his forearm. He looked up, smiling as she approached. Didn't expect you, he said, wiping his hands with a rag. But I'm glad you came. I was in the area, she lied. Thought I'd bring you something. She handed him a small box, homemade muffins, banana walnut. He raised a brow, amused. Trying to bribe your way to a discount? She laughed, and it felt real. He led her inside the small lounge attached to the garage. Mismatched furniture, a coffee pot that looked older than her, and a faint scent of motor oil and pine. It was oddly comforting. They talked for an hour, then 2. I used to think love was supposed to be hard, she said, that the struggle meant it was real. But lately, I just feel tired. Numb. Rick studied her for a long moment, then spoke softly. You deserve warmth, Alyssa. You deserve to be seen. The words landed with a thud in her chest, and then his voice dropped just slightly, low and certain. I don't say this to cross any lines, but if you ever want to feel what it's like, to be wanted, without conditions, no expectations, no consequences, I'd give you that. Once. Only if you asked. She froze. Not out of shock, but because the idea didn't repulse her. It didn't feel sleazy or rushed. It felt honest. Painfully, dangerously honest. Rick looked away, respectful. You don't have to say anything, and I won't bring it up again. I just couldn't watch you keep breaking. She left soon after, words tangled in her throat. That night, she sat in bed beside Derek. He was half asleep, phone dimly, glowing in his hand. She looked at him, his familiar profile, the way his brow furrowed even in rest. There was no malice in him, just absence, a quiet, endless absence. She picked up her phone. Alyssa, are you still up? There was no hesitation. This time, Rick. Always. Her breath caught. She typed, then deleted, then typed again. Alyssa. I don't know what I'm doing. Rick. You're remembering who you are. That's not a mistake. She stared at the screen, the weight of her choices pressing in from all sides. But, instead of fear, she felt alive. For the first time in a long time. Alyssa stood in front of the bathroom mirror, her reflection looking back at her with unfamiliar clarity. For once, she wasn't wearing makeup. No curated smile. Just her, eyes wide, lips pressed tight, breath slow. The message from Rick still lingered on her phone screen. You're not broken. You're just waking up. It had been 3 days since he made the offer. 3 days of silence between her and Derek. Not cold or hostile, just silent. They passed each other like shadows in the same house, speaking only when necessary, as if they'd both quietly agreed to live in the ruins without acknowledging the collapse. Alyssa hadn't replied to Rick, but his words had nested inside, her mind like seeds waiting for warmth. That afternoon, she wandered, first to the grocery store, then aimlessly through the park. And eventually, as though pulled by something unspoken, she found herself parked outside Rick's garage. She didn't get out. She sat in the car for almost 20 minutes, engine off, keys in her lap. Her heart pounded not from fear, but from anticipation, raw and unfamiliar. Finally, she stepped out. Rick was inside, wiping down tools, humming to himself. When the bell above the door chimed, he looked up and met her gaze. He didn't smile, didn't speak. He just waited. Alyssa closed the door behind her. I wasn't sure I'd come, she said softly. He nodded. I wasn't sure you should. They stood like that for a long moment. Two people holding the weight of something dangerous, but undeniably real. I'm not here to make excuses, she whispered, or promises. I didn't ask for either. Silence stretched again, thick, with electricity. I just need to feel something again, she said. Rick moved first, slow, deliberate. He crossed the room, stopping just close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. He didn't reach for her. He waited. When she stepped into him, it wasn't lust that moved her. It was grief. Grief for the years wasted in silence, for the laughter that had dried up, for the woman she used to be. He kissed her as if she were made of something fragile and fleeting. No demands, just presence. They didn't speak after. There was nothing to say. Words would only diminish what had happened. She left before the sun set, the air heavy with the scent of oil, pine, and something irreversible. That night, Alyssa returned home to a quiet house. Derek wasn't on the couch. The TV was off. His shoes sat neatly by the door. She walked down the hall, pausing outside their bedroom. Through the crack in the door, she saw him, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. He looked older, not physically, but emotionally, like someone who had finally accepted something had been lost a long time ago. He looked up when she stepped inside. Their eyes met. For the first time in months, they saw each other. You were gone a while, he said, not accusing, just stating. Yeah, she replied. A pause. Is there someone else? Alyssa swallowed hard. Her hands trembled slightly. There wasn't, she said. But there is now. He didn't flinch, didn't raise his voice. He simply nodded, eyes dim. I think we've both known it was coming. She sat on the far edge of the bed, facing away from him. I tried, Derek, for a long time. I know, he said quietly. And I stopped trying. That's on me. They sat in silence, the kind that feels like closure. Not bitterness, not betrayal. Just the quiet admission that something had ended long before anyone had the courage to name it. The next morning, Alyssa packed a small bag. No dramatic exit, no slammed doors, just a choice. A quiet, conscious step toward something unknown. As she stepped outside, the world felt sharper, the sun warmer, the breeze alive. Her phone buzzed, a new message from Rick. No pressure, no plans, just coffee, if you want it. She smiled. For the first time in years, the road ahead didn't feel like an escape. It felt like a beginning. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.